Hi, I'm Gordy Gundaker. Welcome to the Dirt Parlor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Don Martin. Welcome to the Dirt Parlor. You have no idea what's to come.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of the Dirt Parlor. I'm joined always by my great co-host, Mr. Don Martin. We want to start off by thanking all of our great partners. We want to thank Steve Martin with Ace Durin and Nutrient Ag. I want to thank Jeff Hoker with Hoker Trucking, Maria with FK Rod Ends, Bo Popejoy with Hot Rod Septic, Reed Millard with Millard Family Chapels, Bodies by Skinny, an official Longhorn dealer, and my screen printing and embroidery company, Checker Customs. We're going to go ahead and hop right into it tonight. We've got Lucas Oil regular, Mr. Garrett Alberson. So, Garrett, we appreciate you hopping on to the Dirt Parlor and joining us tonight, man.
Yeah, big time. Thanks for having me.
I know you're right. Let's just get right to the chase. You're not having the season that you're expected to have at this time. I mean, let's just after. I mean, shit happens. I mean, you get ready for a big year, but I think we all looked at it the way you've done the last couple of seasons, and I know you'd be the first one to tell us that, yeah, it just hasn't gone my way right now. Now, me and Gordy both know that's going to change.
No doubt.
And you're going to get back on the path you want to be on and get where you need to get to. But what's been some of the biggest challenges to start the season for you, Garrett? What's been some of your biggest, your obstacles?
Well, I was kind of thinking about it a little bit earlier today, and it's such a momentum-based sport. I feel like nowadays,
yes. Like
if you're riding the momentum wave properly, it just seems like a lot of things go well, and I feel like we just have been behind the edge of the wave kind of the whole time, so you're just trying to find your way back on the front side of the wave to where you can start riding it again. It feels like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just because we saw, everything that we've seen over the last couple of years, and I think everybody at home is like waiting for the 58 car to turn it loose, and we all know it's going to happen. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're racing against some pretty tough.
Yeah.
Competition out there too. Don't get me wrong. This isn't like we're running up and down on the Mars Series or the Northern All Stars. This is a Lucas Oil Series, Yeah. And so it's and I'll let Gordy kind of get into it a little bit, but more in depth because he's been there too. You've both been there.
Yeah. Well, and I think obviously it's tough because right now for you, being on the road, points racing, it's pretty much do or die every night, right? Like you got to have the top fives and, the consistent runs to build your points up. And like you said, when it starts snowballing the wrong way, it just seems like it's so hard to get out of that low. You need a break, right? You need this like little offset time to kind of start over. And then it seems like your brakes they still keep coming because you're going to go to the mag last week and then the clutch goes out.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you might want to take one of Bronson's lines right now. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, one of the things I want to ask you, obviously, so this is a great background because I don't know if a lot of people know how Garrett and I got to know each other. But back in I guess that would have been 2019.
Black
Diamond Days. We actually I went to the Wild West Shootout. Garrett was driving Earl's other car at the Wild West Shootout. So we ended up hanging out for 10 days or something and became buddies and worked on cars. And I went down there and Jason Fitzgerald was with us and Ricky Arnold. And we had an absolute crew for one. But Garrett was in his stuff. So me and Ricky were kind of working on Garrett's and that's truly how we got to know each other. And there's so much to unpack with you because your story of how you ended up really in this ride with Ken Roberts it's one of the best ones out there because it's just from your determination to want to make it in this sport. How you went as a crew chief for Earl, yep. Just pretty much just so you could stay around it. I feel like but always had that will to want to keep driving and racing at the top level. And now here you are. So I kind of want to hear your background of how you got to that point in 2019 and how you've made it all the way up to here.
Yeah, it's pretty, when you think back on it and how wild the ride is, it's pretty, we all kind of get used to what we're doing at the time, and you kind of get zoned in, like honed in on what you're doing. It's easy to kind of forget a little bit about how you got there sometimes and what it took, but, grew up out in New Mexico. My dad raced just like street stocks, hobby stocks growing up. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. You go to the dirt track on the weekends, and, your dad's just your hero, and these guys out there, and they're just the coolest dudes ever. And, so I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to be involved. And the first time I ever got to drive anything, I don't even know, like when you're a kid, I don't even know what makes kids come up with these things that like kids are so confident sometimes. And we were there at the track, and they had an announcement on the PA during the races for an enduro that I guess like back in the day, they used to have these enduros, and they hadn't had them in a while. And they were like, yeah, just knock the glass out of the car, put a roll cage in there, and bring your car, and we'll have a 200 lap enduro, next fall or whatever it was. And I just turned to my dad, and I was like, I had to have been like 9 at the time. And I was like, Dad, I want to do that. Didn't think much of it. It's just like a thing a kid says. Well, then, a few months later, my dad shows up at the house with his Camaro. He like, my dad lays ceramic tile for a living, does flooring. And I think he traded a tile job for this Camaro or something like that. And he brings this Camaro home and is like, hey, you want to race this race? We're going to put it together. I was like, all right. I ended up running this enduro at like 10 or something like that. And I don't even know if anybody knew that a 10-year-old was in this race when it took place. Otherwise, people probably would have put a stop to it. But
no shit. Right.
But after this race, somebody realized there was a kid in there, and they made a 13-year-old rule. So I didn't get to race for a few years after that. But anyways, got to, when I was like 14, we got in the truck class. They had like a street stock truck class down there in New Mexico. And it ended up being a really great class to start out in. It was a little bit smaller on the car count, and not intensely competitive right off the bat. Like it was kind of more of like almost like a club class, like one guy had kind of won all the races for a couple of years in a row. And we ended up my dad again traded a tile job for this truck, and we got this pretty nice truck that hadn't really been raced much. And I think just kind of like fell into like a nice, like a good truck. And I ended up winning like my 4th race out or something like that when I was like 14. And then, when you're a kid, you're like, oh yeah, I got this. This is nothing. And right. So, just started from there, and raced the truck class for quite a few years, and got to know some really cool guys in there. And the first guy I ever drove for, like kind of as a ride, was in that truck class, guy named Rex Porter. Raced for him for 2 years, and we did really good. And then after 2 years, he decided to sell his truck because he was about in his 70s, wanted to just move on and get out of the racing after for he'd been in it like 50 years or something. But another guy, Dave Dietz, that I knew in the truck class, had raced late models way back in like the 90s, and so I didn't have anything going on at the time because that guy had sold my truck that I was racing. Dave actually bought the truck that I had been racing, and he was like, "Hey, I've got this late model sitting out at a shop," and I'd been to a shop before. I'd seen this thing out in the weeds. And he's like, "Yeah, remember that late model I got? I saw a poster for this race in Arizona. I kind of want to take it to it. It's in January." And I was like, "Man, I got nothing going on. Let's put it together." And I didn't realize this was a Wild West shootout. Like this is like a real late model race. I thought it was just some like local thing, you know what I mean? So we scrapped and put this car together, and nobody that was working on this thing. I think he called me in December, and we put this thing together in a month. to go to a Wild West shootout, and we show up and there's Big Billy and Shannon Bass, Jimmy Mars all parked on the front row there, and we're like, oh no, what did we do?
Oh, shit.
And it was a total ass kicking. It was bad. By the end of the week, I think we like didn't get lapped in a B main. That was like the big moment of the week, was we finally did a race.
Yeah, like hell yeah, we're making some speed now. We're gaining on it.
But yeah, it was an interesting way to start. We like, it was I think it was like Dave told me it was like an 88 Bullet chassis or something.
Oh shit.
And this is 20, mind you, when we started this thing. So
Jesus,
the leaf spring brackets out of this thing so we could put some 4-bar. Like it was. So yeah, we started from scratch. It's pretty cool. And then just got ate up with it from there on. Like once you drive late model, that's all you can think about.
Yeah.
How did you kind of like go from there to what made your mind like, this is what I want to do? And in the crew chief, and getting in the cruise. I mean, I think it's a great story how you basically went from crew chief to driver, and when you already were driving, and look at now, you're one of the biggest stars of our sport.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, I mean, I raced, quite a few years. I think when you race like out in that part of the country, and maybe it's a little bit better nowadays, like with the internet and social media and stuff, I think, and the racing community's just not that big, that we're more connected. And I think people more kind of know who's out there doing what. Mm-hmm. But back then, like I raced pretty consistently from like 2004 on is about when I started. But you're just doing it out in a part of the world that nobody really knows about, so
I remember seeing in some of your earlier days, the first time I saw you come to Batesville.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I think I recognized you when you came out there.
Well, I think you weren't you teammates with Simpson for a little bit?
Yeah. So I'd raced for that Dietz out in New Mexico. That's where we started in the late models, and we did local stuff in Arizona and stuff at first, and then we both got ate up with it pretty bad, and we just like wanted to keep going further and further down the rabbit hole, and started buying better cars and getting a little better, and won a super race the second year that we were in it. And so then you're really hooked. You're like, oh yeah, we're late model racers now.
Yep.
And up in Aztec, New Mexico, I think, and then we traveled to like Oklahoma, to like Muskogee, to Thunderbird Speedway, and just got out of our area a little bit, and you can kind of keep up and race with them, and got to know Ronnie Stuckey because we had Masters built cars at the time, and we were looking for kind of a better Tater and them were great, but they always run on open tires pretty much in that Indiana area, and we were kind of looking for some info that was kind of more based on our hard tire stuff, and somebody that kind of knew our world, our side of the country a little bit better. And so we got to talking to Ronnie Stuckey, and anyways, like in 2013, I ended up going over there for like the winter, just to like hang out and try to learn from and just try to get a little bit better. And that was right when Black Diamond was starting. It was like when I showed up, they had car 3 on the jig. And so like and they needed some help too. Like they need the demand was already going, because I think Daryl had already won a couple of races with it. People were they were ordering these things. And so I just kind of like showed up right at the right time, and ended up, I think it took about a year and a half, but I ended up getting a ride with that Childress racing team.
Yep.
At the time was one of the top teams down there. And, and they always had kind of like a full timer, driver that was there for all the races, which luckily I ended up being that guy. And, they usually had kind of like a star or second driver would come in, and, Chris Simpson was my teammate for a little while. And, I actually got a teammate with Tyler Reddick for probably a handful of races, which, we were watching the race yesterday, and he kicked their butts yesterday.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's a cool opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's like I said, I remember those days, and then obviously until we met, and you know, obviously you kind of take the role with Earl and kind of run on with him there for a little bit, and then you know, obviously now you're in the 58 with Ken Roberts, and that clearly is one of the best pairings you could have ever landed in. You know, getting to know him just from seeing him at the races, just an unbelievably nice guy, and clearly loves the racing, you know, and obviously I know you're paired now with, you know, Low Voltage Solutions, which he's not being shy on what he likes to spend in the sport. And, you know, so I think it's cool to see, you know, the entire tenure of what you had the work you've put in to get where you are, all the success that you've had and will continue to have is very much deserved. You know, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people like about you is you're never going to get outworked. I know that much. You know, getting just from, like I said, being buddies with you and everything. You know, I don't know if there's anybody else in the pit area who knows everything about a race car, you know, as much as you do.
I appreciate that. You know, probably sometimes, you know, I guess just from the nature of how we raised back then, just being out in the desert, not having a lot of resources, you just kind of like forced to do a little bit of everything yourself. And I think that's probably part of it. But, you know, certainly there's times where I realize that I probably overthink a lot of it. And I know you've been there firsthand, like Wild West Shootout that year. We were changing everything under the sun, rebuilding the whole car every night.
Every night we had a different package bolted on this thing.
Oh yeah. I've been in research mode for a lot of years. Yeah, actually that was probably one of the best things for me, was going to race with Earl. You know, for so many years, like, I think I had confidence in my driving in a way where I was like, if I just had like what the best guys have in the car, then like I'd be good. So I was just like always searching for what would be the best car, you know? And then I was always like, I could make these Lucas races back in like, say 2015 through 2017, but I could never get in that top 10 or top 5, you know. I was always just a hair behind them national guys. And the Childress team, he had sold out right at the end of 17, and I didn't really have like any prospects going there, and Ronnie was starting Earl's team, and I was like, maybe if I just go with this Earl, I can learn what that last little bit is, you know what I mean? Well, going with Earl, you realize he just drives the thing. He doesn't overthink it at all. You know what I mean? He's just confident in his ability, and we would just, you know, he'd win a heat and he'd be like, all right, Earl, what are we going to change? And be like, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm going to drive this thing. He'd be like, sure. Oh yeah, I'm going to drive this thing. We're not going to tighten it all. And he'd go win the race, and you're like, man, I'm way overthinking.
Dude, that is one of the best things about Earl is just that he's got that calm demeanor about him. Absolutely hilarious, by the way. Like, one of the funniest people you will ever, if you have a pleasure to spend 30 minutes with him, he's hilarious. If you get to spend a few days with him, you just never stop laughing. And you're right. I think too, what was probably a great teacher for you, I mean, he was like that even the week we spent out at the Wild West Shootout with him, is even if the night goes completely awful, you know, he's not going to come in and just be raising hell and whatever. Like, you just sit down and have a beer and talk about it and go, okay, well, what can we do better? Where did we miss a little bit? You know, I mean, I don't know how many times that year when we were at East Bay, when he'd come in and he'd just go, it's getting ready to rubber, let's put a 40 on. And you'd put a 40 on, he'd go from like 22nd to 3rd. He did it like 3 nights in a row. You know, it was just, he just like knew. He had this knack about him, and it's like, but his demeanor was so calm and all the time, and like, oh, no big deal, we'll just try something else tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've got Earl to thank for a lot of learnings them couple of years. You know, how to treat people was probably a lot of it. You know, he's so good.
Yes.
Treating people well, making the people around him feel valuable, and not burning bridges, because it is such a small sport. And then like you said, like, you know, we could have an absolutely terrible night, you know, like run 19th, 20th, doing our best, you know, and he'll come in and be like, boys, tonight, what on our night?
Yeah.
So we, open a beer and go on to the next one, and I still struggle with that a little bit, I think when you're a little bit younger, you feel like every night's the most important night in the world, and, but yeah, it is tough because like there is so much effort and time and money on everybody's end to make it all go well. So you do want, and you put so much of it, passion and everything into it. When you have a bad night, it hurts, but really the only way you're going to get to the next one with a good head on your shoulders, just move on. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
It's good that you're able to keep your head up like that because, it's so competitive out there. You guys, I don't know how, I when I talk to all of you, it doesn't matter the Tanner Thorsons, Gordy Gunday, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are, how you're going to have those peaks and valleys just because it's just not, it's just not easy out there, period. And like Gordy even said, he goes, dude, there is no cherry picking anymore, period. I don't care what it is. And when Gordy and I've had this talk, it's like a win is a win.
Yeah.
So, but that's the biggest thing is, man, when you look at the national tours that are out there between the World of Outlaws and the Lucas Series, and you look at the top 20, the top 20 guys, the top 10 in each series, and you just look at it, and it's the who of who, and listen, there's nobody's got a grace period to say, hey, how you doing tonight? You're struggling a little bit. Let me help you.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
And it's good that you guys are able to keep all you guys. I admire all of you guys, the way you guys can go through these, not so much the peaks as the valleys.
Yeah.
And how you can keep your mindset and stay positive.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not easy.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead.
But I was gonna say, it is tough. I think times like the beginning of this year when you do, like you feel like you're coming in with some momentum and then all of a sudden it's not there. And then I think those are the times where you kind of find your weaknesses a little bit with, so it's valuable in that way. I think we've learned some of our weaknesses since then. And hopefully we're working in ways to improve them, so I think that's the main thing is just keep on trying to move forward, because we'd had a bad night, like at Ocala or something like that, and Ken, you could tell was bummed out. We were all bummed out. And I told Ken, I was like, look, we know, like, we just won a race in Arizona. Like, we know all the pieces to win a race are in this trailer. Like, our shocks, our motor, our cars, like everything's in there. We just got to align it right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, you just gotta keep fighting.
Yeah. Well, and I think for you, especially, like you were talking about though, getting over that hump of like, man, I need to get this first national win, or I need to knock one of these off. And then when, you've been able to do that and race up front with all these guys, it's not like just, hey, listen, everybody talks about, oh, well, you win the first one, the next ones just start falling. Like, that's just not true, unfortunately, anymore. Like, I do understand why people would say that. Like, you got to get past that. But really, it's more like once you win one, you realize you have the ability to get up there and compete inside the top five, or, you should be up there. So when you have the 15th, you're like, okay, something's a little off. We just got to figure out how to get back to square one. And I think, that's what has become so hard now with how many people we have running national tours, right? If you want to go to Wheatland when the Lucas Series comes, like, you got to run against the 16 Lucas guys who roll in there, plus all the guys who race out there in the Midwest, plus the Simpsons and JD who's going to pop in there and go, okay, well, now there's 20 of us who are racing for this win. And so, obviously we all want to win, and it's not like you're happy if you run third, you're like, you want to win, but that third place run against those guys still keeps progressing, your entire team and all of you guys in the right direction. And, that's what's crazy about our sport now. It's like, man, if a guy goes out and has double-digit wins in a season, no matter how he gets them, that is a beyond successful year in anybody's book.
Absolutely.
Most guys are fortunate if they get one in a year. If they get five in a year, like, that's doing a lot now, because although there is a ton of racing, when you look at what Bobby and JD and Sheppy and them all consecutive, well, they end up, what Huddy's doing right now. Like, those top guys wipe out like half the races before we ever have a chance to get one. So, it's so hard. Because we're so close in speed, and we're all racing, for, like we've talked about numerous times. The packages are very similar now these days. So, those big swings that you used to see when Old Man Moyer would mop these guys up by 10 and 12 seconds, like, that does not happen ever anymore. That's just, it's not realistic. So, I feel like it's, for you, I feel like sometimes you get some of the worst luck I've ever seen. Like, I feel like all the people always pile up right in front of you, and then you just have nowhere to go.
Yeah. Sometimes it'd be like, and it's easy to, when you're the guy in it, to be like, oh man, I get the worst luck, and then, and Ken will be like that too. It's like, man, we just need some luck. And then you're like, well, if you think back to this race where we had a caution actually fell our way, if you actually look deep into it, no, it feels like it some days, but then too, I'm sure when you really dissect, and I think a part of longevity in this sport, I think, is being real honest with yourself, and not just being like fake or overly optimistic about your actual like position scenario in the sport right now, as being able to look and see, like, if I had actually done a little bit better job on this restart, I wouldn't have been in this scenario. You know what I mean? Things like that. So in that way, I think, we kind of make our own luck in some of them.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it all goes back to, racing throughout a full night is just a complete circle, right? Because you hear it a million times, guys will get out and say it, and they're like, well, we put ourselves in the position to start 16th, and we got caught up racing in a crash for 10th. If we would have been starting 16th, we would have never been in this mess. And you're 100% right, because it all is, understanding where this sport's at and what you have to do to put yourself in the best situations to create the best results. Because luck and those things are only gonna make it so far, right? Like, you might miss a caution here, might miss one there, and get caught up in the next one, and that's the way racing goes. But it's cool to see, though, because I feel like for you, watching the pace that you've been able to pick up over the last year and a half, where I feel like every night, you're starting up front and you're qualifying good and doing your heat race stuff. Like, that's the hardest thing, I think, to get to, is where you consistently have that speed at the beginning of the nights. Like, you've gone down to the Wild West Shootout now the last couple of years, and I feel like every night you are in the top 4 battling for a win, where 5 years ago, that's not the case, so it's like you're progressing in your own way, and we all want instant gratification, right? We all want to know that we're the best, or we can go out and win this race or whatever. But when you're consistent at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, going out racing on points battles and doing those things. And I feel like you're getting closer and closer to that, every day.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's really cool to look back, and Ken's real good at the analytics. That's where he did good in his businesses. A lot of numbers and being really analytical at things, and so he's really good at breaking down like your whole season, on averages, starting averages, finishing averages, all these things, where you can kind of learn where you've improved and where you haven't. And I think it was like 23 or something like that. Our average feature start was like 13th or something crazy. Like, it was not good. And Ken was like, we've got to fix this qualifying, like these features, we got to start further forward on the features. And then by the next year, we got it up to like, say, 7th or something like that. Like, we made a huge improvement. Oh. And then by last year, I don't remember our average feature start position right off the top of my head, but we won something like, it was an absurd amount of heat races. It was like every third heat race on the season we won, or something like that. It was a pretty cool statistic, and he's good at breaking that down to where you can kind of see where you're improving. And obviously we all want be there at the end of these features, and I've had people ask me, it's like, well, why don't you qualify good? Why don't you just set up for the feature? And I'm like, when I show up, that's the best setup I got, and it seems to qualify good, and I don't know how to make it get past that sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
It's like the things that I want out of the car, feel wise and driving style wise and stuff like that. It's like they're optimized apparently for the beginning of the night.
Right.
I gotta like work on my feel, I think, when it comes to the rest of it. But no, it's cool, with Ken, he gives you the freedom to work on it, and he's realistic. It's a tough place to be, I'm sure, as a car owner, to be patient, because everybody's spending a lot of money and they want to do good right now. So for him to have the patience and let me kind of grow and grow into like finding how to make my feel fit the longer races and some of these things, it's really fortunate, I feel like, to be in that position.
Well, I think, like I said, when we came on, I mean, that's why we talked a little bit about your struggles a little bit, because of the fact you are a household name.
Yeah.
And people have high expectations for you because you've proven on the stage that you can get it done. And that's a compliment to you, Garrett. I mean, you deserve those accolades when people talk about them. And so one of the things that Gordy and I talked about, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about it, like, it seemed like it was always the cookie cutter thing. You get the Longhorn with the Bilsteins, and now it's like we're seeing some different shock companies out there now. You've got Huddy on the Penske's, and we're seeing that, and then you're seeing the Olin's deals, and then you're seeing some different Fox. Mark looks like they're getting a grasp of the Fox program. They're getting stronger, and Gordy and I were talking about it. Is like, I think this is great for the sport because not everybody's on the same setups now. It's kind of like guys are getting kind of on their own again a little bit, and I think it's a new it's a great dynamic, and I think that it's good for racing.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up in like there's only one path. Once you see what's winning races, like it's easy to feel like there's only one path there, and I think what it comes down to is the people. You know what I mean? Like, we love the position we're in with all the people that we deal with, and that's why we stay where we're at. Because of the people that we deal with, and there's I think everybody in the sport's got something good to bring to the table. So it's not like there's the wrong path, I don't think. But if you gel well with the people and everyone's got the same mentality, and I think that's kind of where your speed comes from. So it's good to see people making it work in other areas, because it just means that like you're saying, that sport can grow.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, we've talked a lot about this, about, the fact that you're seeing more of the shock brands kind of diversifying a little bit again. Everybody kind of got away from it. But I think another big thing that has really happened over the last few years is you got a lot of guys doing their own consulting programs, right? Obviously I know you're paired up with Vinny and VG Performance, and there's a ton of those guys that are actually out there, right? And I think that dynamic changed when I think it dwindled into where it was just getting, you had to go to Longhorn and buy Bilsteins. And I think guys realized at that point, like, all right, well, we're going to buy that product, but if we all buy the same standard package that they sell on the shelf, well, we're only going to all be the same speed. And I think obviously you've seen that on the road, that has changed a bunch now, where there's a lot of guys that are doing a lot of different consulting programs kind of across the board at the national levels to find that extra little edge that maybe you're not getting from just calling up there and ordering a package.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And to a degree, I guess, it is good for people in the sport, like Vinny and those people that are able to, grow their businesses in that way. I think the only thing that concerns me long-term maybe is that the cars are such a small window. It feels like, to where if you don't have that help and you kind of like try to go down a different path, like your own kind of path, sometimes you'll get out a window so quick and you don't even realize it. I think that's what people, to me, like that's what Vinny brings to our program, is kind of a more like focused approach that keeps you from getting outside of a window that works well. Which is good, especially when you have that resource available. But that's kind of the tricky thing about the sport where it's at right now, is like you said, we got so many of us have similar cars, similar motors. The shocks, I think, have all kind of like funneled into an area where they're all pretty similar over the years. Even across brands, like, you're not going to magically come in with a totally different valving setup out of nowhere and it's going to work. Like the cars, they're going to run what they're going to operate in the realm that they want to work in. So, like, I think we've got our cars into kind of that small window where that difference is, that guy that you can spend money with. And, it does keep the sport growing in that way. But for your average racer, your local racer, I think it hurts a little bit. I think there was a period maybe where the window of opportunity was a little bigger with the race car and what you could and couldn't get away with. I don't know how to fix that, but
right. That's what I was going to say. We weren't that far off from it like 6 or 7 years ago, because I mean, listen, when I had Black Diamond stuff there in 2018, 2019, we were actively changing things on our cars. I mean, we had a lot of conversations about pickup points, and we were changing stuff with our right rear bars, and like, hell, I accidentally did something wrong at Mansfield that when we were up there for the million, we were checking our rear end during the day and just doing a bunch of shit, not paying attention. I had moved my right bottom bar in the wrong right rear hole, right? So we have two in our 4-bar brackets. At the time, we had a standard 15-inch hole, and then you had a shorter hole that was for a 14-inch rod. Well, I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, and stuck this thing back there and went out, and I'm wheeling up, and I'm like, damn, I've got some grip here. Like, this was a little bit better than, I don't really know what I did. And I went over to Stuckey. We were parked right next to him, and I'm like, dude, this thing is wheeling like crazy. Like, I don't really know what. And he comes over and he's like, hey, man, well, your right rear bar's in the wrong hole, And he's like that. And I'm like, well, it actually didn't feel bad. And then I find out that, some other guys are doing it. I make some phone calls and get to talking, and we exchange some information to try and help each other. And then that was what I won all my summer national races with, and the summer national race at Fairbury. Like, just shit like that. Like, you couldn't do that today, and I think it would, it wouldn't work. And it, like, those types of things are what you're talking about, where we've kind of boxed in because we've built all these packages to fit exactly what we have, and we know that makes this much speed. And but if you do try to swing way out of it and do something else on your own, you probably end up wasting time and effort. Honestly, not a lot of guys are doing what they did 6-7 years ago, where it's 2-3 in the morning and you're dreaming up ideas of what you want to do, and you're chop cutting, rebuilding. I saw that shit firsthand when we raced with Pierce's. When I ran Pierce cars, this Bob was not scared to cut a bracket out or a bar out at any time when we were in those cars. Like, if we sucked for a week and we went somewhere, like, dude, he had the saws out and the welders, and we were cutting something off this thing, trying to figure out what we needed to do. That's, like that doesn't happen. Like, nobody's at the racetrack cutting bars out anymore. Like, if that car's that bad, you're probably going to sell it, move it down the road, and just go buy another one.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think to a degree, that was one of the things that always kind of like drew me to the sport, was like how much kind of freedom there always was, and like being able to come up with the next cool thing, and it's still in there, like we, to a degree. I mean, that's the tough thing with our cars. Like, you're a few, spring rates or load combinations away from having like a freaking fast car. But sometimes it doesn't feel like it. So then you get to really like tinkering with stuff. And sometimes you'll catch on to something that seems to do well. But yeah, I think, yeah, just like you're saying, like the ability for that stuff to kind of like travel well and like, run a whole summer nationals or something like that. I think that period's kind of come and went a little bit. I feel like we're all kind of like, you can go through the pits. These Longhorns are all the right side 4 bars. They're pretty much all in the same place. Left side 4 bars are pretty much going to be all in the same place. And if you try to get a little funky with it, you ain't going to be up there with the guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was when we had Brandon on the show, Overton, and he talked about how the fact you guys were having a lot of fun talking about what he did with the deck height, tying it down.
Oh yeah,
and the story at Farmer City was during a classic.
That was one of the. I'm telling you, that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
And Gordy called it out with Brandon on it.
he zipped. I don't know if you watched that one or not, but he talked about back then. We were all trying to get the decks as high as you could, but we had a 39-inch deck rule, and he zip tied his left rear spring, but the zip ties wouldn't break when they went out there. It was a day show at Farmer City, and he started on the front row and rolled out there, and when we took the green, they weren't broken. He sailed off into one, and this thing just spun out in front of everybody, and luckily a bunch of guys were in this deal, so he got his spot back, and when he went up over the hill in turn 1, it broke the zip ties loose. And so when he rolled back out there, he was good to go. But, that's like that type of shit. You don't see that anymore because it's obviously the policing of the rules and all that has also changed drastically, the droop rule and all of that. But the ingenuity side of things, right? Like you think about Rumley and the device. Will we ever see something like that again? I don't know. Maybe if Rumley comes up with it, maybe. I don't. But outside of it, it's, now there's so much active of like, okay, well, we know what we're looking for, and they constantly do it that it's hard. I think it's ever going to be hard to kind of lengthen that box back out to where a guy can go out and work on his stuff and do something very different than what the norm is and be as fast at the end of the day. You think about all the years that Scott's cars were so good, and obviously Dale and Shane still make it work, but they have so many notes built off this thing that they know exactly what they're looking for, and they're probably one of the few combinations I would say that can continuously do it. But it is kind of worrying, I guess, because how long until they just all go, well, we're just going to build this style car and we're all going to race it. I don't know if it'll ever get to that because you got enough guys that want to build cars and manufacture them. But it's changed a ton in the last 5 or so years.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it. And it's, I've got a friend or two like in the NASCAR world that, when you talk to them about the freedom that we do still have to just work on our own cars and play with the body and mountings of stuff, and they're like, man, you guys can just work on your cars like that, like and then you're like, oh, I guess we still do actually have some freedom, but it does feel restricted compared to where it was. But I know Ronnie Stuckey and Vinny are both pretty good at reminding me, because I'm one of those that likes to kind of try to get outside the box a lot and stuff, that survival of the fittest, like the things on these cars are the way they are for a reason, because it comes back around so many, after so many races, this thing's going to win out, whatever part of that car it is. And so, I think enough years have gone by, the survival of the fittest for each component of that race car is kind of played out to where that's how our cars just are, and most nights that's where it's going to be won with. But yeah, the itch to I think when you've had it, Gordy, when you have that perfect car that night, you're like, if I could just do this every night, this would be awesome.
Yeah, it's the most rewarding feeling in the whole world, when it's just like, man, no matter what I do to this thing, doesn't matter where I go on the racetrack, like I'm just completely stuck, and these guys don't feel like they have anything for me. There's nothing like that feeling. Like it's and then you're just like, oh well, if I could just replicate this over and over and over again, this is going to be great. But doing that is way fucking harder than it sounds.
I'm curious, both of you guys. you both work on your cars and you drive. What do you like better? You like working on them as much as you like driving them? And this is for both of you, because I know you're both really hands-on.
I would say for me, obviously, the rewarding side of all of it, right, is racing it. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what we're there to do, and it's like, you're rewarded. But I do think when you spend all those hours, late nights in the shop, and you're doing all the things to make sure nothing goes wrong at the racetrack that weekend, that in itself is its own reward, right? And it's nothing against the guys that have the 3 and 4 crew members and they just show up and race. Like, it'd be awesome to be able to do that. Don't get me wrong. Like but I think when you're kind of molded the way we both are, that's like, you either work on it or it's not making it to the racetrack, or, those types of things. Like, you just become, that's just the norm. And,
I can't see you being a guy to stay away from it, though. Even if somebody was doing it, I didn't.
No, I don't think I ever could, because I think when you're trained a certain way to work on them constantly, like, you want to know what's going on with your race car. I think for me, I'm a better race car driver when I know the changes I made and go out and feel them, because then I know if they were good or bad. I mean, it falls on me at the end of the, when we're done, but then I'm learning more actively, and all these guys, don't get me wrong, they all are putting input in, but I think, just the way I mentally go about it, that, it's how I'm progressing in the sport, and how I can go to guys that, are smarter and have more information and go, okay, well, these are the 4 things I tried over the last 2 weeks, and these 2 I hated, and these 2 were okay, but I don't feel like I got it right. And that's how you kind of in your notebook, every race car driver will tell you their notebook of the things they've done wrong is like 10 stories high, and the things they've hit on is like 6 pages, right? Like, there's not a lot of notes in there that are like, man, it was perfect, we should do this all the time. You just, there's few, that's very few and far between. But for me, that's how I've always learned, and how I've made changes to get better was because I knew exactly what was on my race car, and how, what I was doing was making a good or bad decision.
A perfect example was like last year when you did the transmission deal.
Yeah.
I remember the story you were telling us.
And and Garrett knows more than anything, the transmission stuff right now is like the spottiest deal ever. Like, if you have a small snag inside the transmissions, all your traction goes away, and it's the most just thing. It will piss you off to no extent when you don't catch it, because then all of a sudden you're like, why do I suck so bad? And then you check a transmission and you're like, well, go ahead and just change this baby out real quick and we'll get our speed back.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the areas of the car where it's like one of your first targets when you don't feel like you got the speed that you should have or something. And it's probably because we've all learned the hard way,
Yep.
We were at Magnolia. I was racing with that Childress team, and we had just run the Gumbo Nationals at Greenville. I don't know if you ever watched that race there, back when it used to like be up on the cushion, like that Greenville track.
I've watched it. Garrett just beating the shit out of this poor race car.
Oh yeah. It was like it's like an Illinois transplant, the dirt, the shape, the style of racing. It's bizarre. And they used to start it with a man-made cushion because it had this footing in the concrete, and if it didn't have a cushion, you just rip the rear ends right out of these things. So like when you showed up, it had a 3-foot tall cushion. It was amazing. But anyway, so like we run the Scumba Nationals up on the wall the whole time, and we go to Magnolia, and this car is just dead, not getting anything done. You're like tightening up, not getting anywhere. And then, then I think my drive shaft stripped out or something, like something big, like it wouldn't even roll out to get pushed back in. So go to change the drive shaft out. Well, the yoke won't even move in this. I think we had like ball splines or something like that. The yoke wouldn't even come out of this ball spline. So we changed transmission and the drive shaft, go back out. It was on a practice night. Totally different race car. Everything that I had done, this car had traction. It would roll steer. Like I was totally out of whack. Then I had to rebuild the whole car. It was like, well, at least we found it now, So yeah, it's wild how much it all matters,
Yeah.
Now I want to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about the race schedules coming up, because I'm going to go through. I know where Garrett's kind of schedule is, and I know where Garrett and Gordy's schedule is. So this week we got Atomic and we got Brownstown. Gordy's won at Brownstown, of course, and had some success there. And you haven't even been there that many times. How many times have you been there? Handful?
8, yeah, I think maybe 8. I ran at both Summer Nationals stuff. I did. I don't know. Yeah, maybe 8. I don't know. Not that many.
You know,
I sucked the first 4 times I went there. So it's one of those places.
So I kind of want to talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about Atomic. Let's talk about Brownstown, and kind of go through. Then I'm gonna come right back with Maquoketa, because I guarantee that Garrett's probably going to be there as well. And then of course we go. I'm sure he's going to be at Wheatland then the following week for the 7 and the 20, and then that takes us all the way to the end of the month, where you both are probably going to be standing tall at Burlington.
Yeah.
So kind of like, look, ain't smiling. Kind of like, if you had to rate these racetracks and your performance, which ones you're really looking forward to going to, and maybe some like, hey, that place kind of owes me one. I've been good there in the past. I'm excited about going there. And I kind of like, I'll let Gordy kind of talk it off a little bit, even though you're not going to Atomic or Brownstown this week, kind of like assess a little bit about this week at Atomic and Brownstown.
Right. Well, I want to hear Garrett's layout of the list there first. I want to hear what he's got
well,
on.
You're gonna, if you had to rank them 1 through 5, like looking at the weeks you're going to, what's number one for you? Wheatland?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Wheatland's
for me by far, yeah. Wheatland is right now. That's like my favorite place in the country to go. Garrett can attest to it. We've talked about it on here. It races really, really good right now, and it's a driver's racetrack, and you got to do a lot of different things at Wheatland than you do anywhere else in the country. I think it's fun because, they go out sometimes and they'll work the bottom or they'll work the top, and like, you have to be in the bottom for 15 or 20 laps. And then next thing you know, like, you don't really know when you should go to the top, but then the top lane will get trucking, and it's like, a few tenths faster. So next thing you know, your doors are getting blown off and you're just kind of switching all over. So it's a lot of fun. And then, I would, I guess if I laid it out, it would go Wheatland. I love Burlington. So I would say Wheatland, Burlington, Atomic, Brownstown, Indiana, and then Maquoketa. I hate Maquoketa, to be completely honest. I hate that place. Like, I don't know if it's just because it's so.
Figure says the same thing. It's like
so
the way
dirty though. I think it's like
different.
dirty, gritty, nasty dirt, and you're getting like the beginning of the features when they go out and prep it. If you start on the outside, you're just getting peppered the whole time. Just can't hardly see anything. Yeah,
Hoker's at home right now. He's going to see this. And
well,
say,
yeah, we're going. We have to. We're going. Don't worry. It's just because I don't like the racetrack doesn't mean I won't be there. It has produced some great racing. It's just one of those places that's not my cup of tea, I guess. So Garrett he'll probably have a totally different list. So I want to know what his is.
Yeah. So we start off. Gordy's favorite's Wheatland. What about yours?
I would say, Burlington's been good to me in the past. So I'd say Burlington's probably the one that I'd just be looking forward to the most, as far as feel confident in. Oddly enough, that track in Wheatland, there's not many places like Wheatland for whatever reason. It seems like a straightforward racetrack, but it's just not for some reason. Finding the grip, staying in the grip, and having max dig you got to have, but also being able to circle, all those things, those Burlington and Wheatland are the only two that kind of share the weird personality that they have, and so I'd probably rank it like Burlington and Wheatland, and then I feel like we're fairly competitive at Atomic. There's a lot of I think a lot of things kind of have to fall your way at Atomic to finish well, because the restarts are kind of wild, like the slide jobs and stuff like that. You kind of got to be a little mean sometimes on them restarts. B-Town and Maquoketa are both for me kind of at the lower end, just mostly knowing what I need to be good. Both of those tracks are kind of they're the type of tracks I feel like where there's no hiding when you're not good. You know what I mean? If your car is not there, like there's no safe place to go and make your speed back up. Like you just suck.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. It is so hard if you unload bad, you suck all night. Like it's one of those, but it's always very different. I think that's what's crazy about it. Like especially Brownstown, like you never know what you're really gonna get out of that place. Like it can be super clean and you're kind of pedaling around. Sometimes it's kind of chopped up and really fast. Some nights you got to just burn the curb. And that's one thing about Brownstown, which obviously you understand, is like the top and the bottom of that place are two very different racetracks, like polar opposites. And when you run the top there, you have to be very comfortable with pretty much going down the backstretch leaned out the wrong way, and then driving back into the top. It throws you all off because it's so dear and it's circular, and it's its own animal. It has obviously produced some of the best racing, that we will see, but it is very difficult to figure out.
Yeah.
I remember last year's race when Sheppy going into one there with Devin.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And all of a sudden, everybody was like, he's not going to make it.
Yeah. Nope, he didn't. Right there, they came together at the flag stand. Like it. And you run out of room faster at that place than you would ever imagine you would. But because it's so circular and the way you're trying to keep your momentum up, like if a guy's not running the infield tires, that's why you see so many of them hit at the flag stand or hit coming off a 2 and somebody's all the way off the racetrack, because you're trying to make speed in such a weird way. And that's just, you end up trying to use up the whole racetrack.
See, Brownstown to me is kind of like, it's one of the historical places. Okay. It's where I've seen KG race. I got to see Swartz, KG, Moore, Purvis, Buck Simmons, all those guys racing at that place, Freddie and, in the Barker bus car. And it just, to me, it was like one of the first racetracks, you see the juice in the Daily Juice car. Remember? I mean, It's just so historical of all the Stars days. And it was one of those tracks that in the late 80s and the early 90s, to where you were going to see all the Stars guys, and you'd see Scott coming in. And then you see all the UMP guys, Bob with Pierce, and and then Brownstown's local contingent were just animals, with the Currys and the Claycombs and the Gills. Yeah. And you just see that. And I guess that is just kind of like, it's part of, it's a little, the history.
So you're mad because we put it down on the list is what you're saying.
Well, I'm just saying because over time, listen, I'm not a racer. Don't claim to be one. I love talking about it, but I don't have to put my uniform on like you clowns do, and go after it. I totally get it. And it's also not like at that time too, and your dad will say if he was there, man, when that place got slick and slow, about 30 mile an hour, was producing probably some of the best racing you ever saw in your life. Yeah. Everything's changed over time.
That's one thing about it. When it gets slick, some bitch, you better hold on tight, because it's like glass, and you are just floating it's
floating.
Yeah, you are. I mean, truly, you could probably answer this, Garrett, but like, how much I can guarantee you this, you're probably in a feature when it's slick like that, you are never full throttle, ever. Like you're maybe using half throttle, getting down the middle of the straightaway, and in the corners you're practically just idling around there, trying to not wheel spin. It's so slick.
And Garrett, when you go to Wheatland, real quick, because you're naturally, you're going to be there for the show me and your point racing, and then when you go on the spring race there for the 7 and the 20, how do you approach it any different, knowing that you got point races in May, or how do you approach an event like that?
Well, for sure, like you would like to think that, it's not a points race, so this is when you can kind of like try something that's on your mind a little bit. But then at the end of the day too, when you race for a living, like your only shot at making some money, that run good. So and when you go to that spring race right there, there's going to be some of the best dudes in the country there. Like, even though it's an MLRA race, is it an MLRA race? Is that?
I think it is. I think it's MLRA.
Yeah. Even though it's not a, national race, it don't matter. That's going to be a tough race to win no matter what. So, so like no matter what, you're bringing your best, like, I think you alluded to it earlier. That's how it is every weekend. Like, there's no, trying
Let's
stuff
not
out.
shape it.
Not an easy. It's a weaker field or something like that. It don't exist no more.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I would say you might see Garrett try a little bit harder if he's racing for the win the last few laps, but he'll do it anyways. But that was probably one of the times when if he's points racing, he might be going, all right, I got to just get to the finish line here. If he's going for the win, you're going to see some sparks. And they changed it for you. They made it so that the turn 4 wall is easier now and circulars around there, and they're going to bank it. I'm like, why did we do that? Like, it's like one of the only places in the country that we go that was like such a sketchy top that you couldn't hardly run it. And now they just beefed it up for all the guys that can do it so well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that plays out. I'm curious to see the nights that'll end up like a Farmer City, where you got the one side that's got 3-foot tall cushion, and we just beat the thing down, and the other side's an ice rink, and you're like, oh god, yeah, you gotta
Dude, yeah, 100%.
The one thing,
the Slocum race is always a big event, man. The Burlington race, everybody wants to win the Slocum.
Yeah.
And I think both of you talked about how you could kind of switch. I mean, you like Burlington. He put it number 1, basically. And is it because, do you feel like when you go to Burlington, like, is there any added pressure because knowing that your team is like, with the Roberts deal being right there from there, does it put any additional pressure on you for that weekend, or do you just treat it like any other weekend?
I mean, if you really like dig deep, I'm sure it's there a little bit, but we've raced at like Davenport and stuff, which is right down the road, and you always want to do good in front of, there's some people that, probably get to go to these races that don't get to go to, ones further away from the hometown and stuff. So, I mean, you always want to do good at those, but I don't know, for some reason, just like the shape, the style of racing and driving, I just always like Burlington. Even, it was one of the first like real Midwest tracks I ever got to go to, actually. Back in, I think it was 2015. It was like I had just started for Childress, and I think I maybe raced one weekend for them in like Mississippi or something like that. And it was in that weird springtime, like sit and wait period where it was like, there's all these races, but everything's getting rained out. And I had just started with this big team. I was ready to race, you know what I mean? So, everything around home was raining out. Like I think the Pelican rained out and stuff. And they had a 3-day weekend up here. It was, Davenport, the half mile, the Slocum 50 at Burlington, and then I think a Mars race or something at East Moline. And I was like, well, it's 3 races, a long drive, but we can go racing. And so we came up here and run Davenport. Actually got in a big wreck. Ripped the underslungs out of this thing, like ripped the rear end out of it. And then Mike, we actually came to Mike's shop. It's the first time I've ever seen Mike's shop, which is oddly enough the shop that we're racing out of now, the old Mach 1 shop. We were close enough because we were at Davenport. We come to Mike's shop. He welded the underslung mount back in this thing because he was up there. I think it was Ken's first Black Diamond race. Like we built the Black Diamond for Ray, and it was like a brand new car for him. And so Mike was up there making sure it all went right. And he helped us fix the car. And then we went to Burlington the next night, and I think around like 8th or something. So which for us was pretty big deal, to come to a track you never been to and run decent. And it was like way I just like fit, the track fit me, and I kind of fit the track. Just one of those things that I always liked it.
Yeah. Well, I think about Burlington, it has, I think Burlington and Wheatland have like their own kind of similarities in a way. The dirt's obviously different, but they have some of that long straightaway that you better be leaving the corner straight and making speed, because if not, if you're hanging out off of 4, but it's super wide. Like 3 and 4 is very, very wide. And obviously 1 and 2 is its own animal. Like, I don't know how many guys, like even last year, it's like, you drive clean off the turn 1 over that, like in hot laps or qualifying. So many guys do it. And I can actually remember maybe 2 years ago, we were there, and Squirrel, he goes flying right off of turn one, right in front of me. I'm sitting and staging at hot laps. I'm like, I mean, I know it's like, it's difficult, but like, what in the hell is he doing? Like, he just drove off it. I drove it right off the first lap. Just clean drove off turn one. And I was like, well, that's what I get for kind of making fun of him over here in staging. Like, I deserve that one, you know, but it's one of the racier places we go to. Like, because you look at guys like you and Bobby and Sheppy who can really get up there and wheel on the top of like 3 and 4. Like, you have to yard sail it damn near to really get up there. But if you hit it right, you can make a ton of speed. And then, you know, guys, there's other, you know, the other guys can run across the middle or run down in the infield. And
it's fast.
Yes, and it's put on a lot of really good shows. You know, hell, for the last probably 10 Slocums, I feel like have been good. You think of the years Bobby won it, and then Unzicker won it, and Sheppy started, like, every year it seems like that race is always really, really good. You know, I don't know if it's something in the air when we're there, but it is always good racing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times the tracks that end up putting on a good race, especially when it comes down to the wire and, like, you know, when the money's on the line and the like it gets really good, are the tracks where you don't really, like, nobody knows where to be at. You know what I mean? I think Burlington's one of those, like, when it, you know, obviously when the lane's like super obvious, you know, we all know where to go, but when it gets close to the end, I think last year's Slocum was like that when it was so slick. I remember that night was like the black was like ice. Like it didn't even, the middle didn't even start like cleaning up to even run through it until like 5 to go or something like that. It was so slick. And so I think those races where you're like, I don't even know where I should be at right now. Like, everything feels bad.
Yeah.
I think those are the nights that end up putting on really good shows. Davenport, I feel like, is one of those tracks like that where, like, at the end of the race, everyone's tires are blistered out. Everybody feels bad. Everyone's just like hoping for the best. And so you're just winging. Everybody, you know, gets a little desperate, and that's when it really gets fun.
Yeah.
Do you guys, you know, that's the other thing, you know, you talk about like Brownstown not having the walls and other, some tracks not, I'd be curious, do you like racing? I know Figure hates racing at tracks that don't have a wall.
I hate it. Yeah. What's bad is I say that I hate it now. I didn't hate it when I first started because we used to go to Quincy all the time that didn't have a wall. You know, I mean, it had front stretch and back stretch walls, but it didn't have corner walls. But I've always much rather preferred going to a racetrack that's got a wall on it. You kind of find out where your stopping point is. You can see where you're going. You know, some of the places that we've gone that don't have walls seem to be the most poorly lit places as well. So then that makes it way harder because you already can't see. And then as the racetrack's changing, you're like, well, I don't even know where the lane's at, and I have no idea where the cushion stops or where it starts to taper off. And, you know, and some guys obviously love that, but I've never really been one of them.
Yeah, I'd agree. And it's interesting too, like, my mindset's changed over the years. When I first grew up, none of the tracks that I grew up at, we had 3 tracks, 2 of them in New Mexico and 1 in El Paso, Texas, that were like a triangle about 1:45 all apart. None of them had a wall all the way around, just front stretch wall. And so I hated the idea of a wall because, like, there's no out, you know. Well, all these tracks you could go off of and survive. Like, you weren't going to flip over. And so I didn't know, like, ignorance is bliss, you know what I mean? And so the first time I ever ran a track with a wall all the way around it was Tucson in a late model. And I'm like, this is scary. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
I feel like when you see wrecks, like big wrecks, and you're like, this is not a good deal, you know? But so, like, it took years to kind of like build up to the, like, feeling safe against that wall, and like kind of knocking that, like, discomfort factor out of there, like purpose mental effort to, like, knock that discomfort out of there with that wall being there, growing up without it. And now when I go to places like Brownstown or, you know, 1 and 2 in Farmer City or something like that, like, that's way more stressful. it's
How about Lernerville?
Yes. I mean, that too. I've never been to Lernerville. I think you've gone to Lernerville, haven't you?
Yeah, in Lernerville, you can mess up there. Well, shoot, Hillsback did. He got caught up on a crown last year. It seems like it's always like the guy qualifying right in front of you, right? Where you're like sitting in stage and the guy flips it over and you're like, that's what I needed to see right there. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Great timing on this one.
Yeah, I was really in the group of cars next, and I'm sitting there like at turn 4 watching this qualifying, and he goes and flips her out of there, and I'm like, that's great. Yep. I gotta think after the next time.
We know that this can happen, and now I got to go on the racetrack next. So, yeah, it is weird how the mental side of it changes very drastically when you're racing at a place with no walls and a place with a wall. Like because it's so much easier without a wall, I feel like, to make that mistake, because you're putting a little more pressure on yourself to be perfect. Because listen, most of the days now, it's like you're either all the way in the cushion, because if you're 6 inches off of it, you don't have enough speed. And so you're trying to get all you can, and you're also running it on the ragged edge, and you hop right over that cushion just a little bit. Like it's see you later. You're either going down the backside of the hill, or you're praying to God that the right rear underslung does not bury into the cushion, and you're going for a ride. So it's a very thin line of being really, really fast or trashing a race car.
Yeah, and it's like I think the trick that I'm still working on, that we're probably all still working on, is, I mean, there's some guys, like you were saying, Don, that are just like really, they kind of gravitate to them tracks without walls. Like I think Hud and Devin, to me, would be the two that come to mind. Is like they always find it like if you look at like Marshalltown, where it's kind of like sketchy, no walls, that Hud wins like every time he shows up there, or something like that. But it's like, you got like training your mind to realize that it's the same scenario. The consequences are just different. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Because like with the wall, you goof up, you just look like an idiot for a second, and you put a new lower A arm on there and you rock and roll. Or like if you hang the frame rail over there and you flip it over, that's like a week's worth of work.
Yeah, you're way more in depth. Well, and it's not really fair though, because Devin's got like the place that he grew up at, being Muskingum, is like one of the faster places that we go to with no walls. So he's got a lot of laps at doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Muskingum's actually, well, they've done a good job there. I'll give them Max, a bunch of credit, because they're up against a tough scenario with the dirt they got, and
Right.
and Donnie and them, they've done a good job with the banking and stuff, and it was a racy track last year. But yeah, no, for sure, like when you run that thing around the top and it's kind of like that silty stuff, it don't hold you all that great to begin with, and you're right there on the edge of that thing. It's when you grow up on that, I can see why and then like Hudson growing up at Brownstown, you know what I mean? Like that's when you grow up with that, that's just part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite racetrack? With some of the places that you really enjoy going to, you got some of those, Garrett? What's some of your favorite places you like to race at? Real quick, before you say anything, I'm curious, what's he going to say, Gordy? Give me a couple. Let's see what does Gordy know Garrett Albertson very well?
No, that's kind of tough. If I had to pick, I'm going to guess he's going to say Pittsburgh Motor Speedway. I think that's going to be in there.
Pittsburgh is fun.
I was going to say Port.
Port's probably in the top 3, I'd say. Like, and I know it seems biased because I'm from there, but have you been to Votto, Gordy?
No, I haven't been there.
Beautiful facility. Beautiful.
Dude, like I don't know how they managed it, and if it was in any part of the country, I'd say the same thing. Like it's 8 minutes from the house that I grew up in, but it doesn't matter where that track fell out in the country. Like that is like the perfect late model track. It is so fun. Like there's a certain amount of tracks that you go. I mean, a lot of tracks you go to because it's part of the schedule and it's just part of what a traveling racer does. And then there's some tracks that you're like excited when you get there. Like every time you unload, pull his car off the gate, you're like, hell yeah, this is gonna be badass. You know what I mean? And Vado is one of them. It's just like the shape, the technicality of it. It carries speed for its size, and just races big, like races wide. Vado is excellent. It's got to be one of the top three, if not the top of current tracks that I just look forward to going to. Obviously the Wild West Shootout, they needed to do something different on, to make that show make sense for them. But I do hate that it's not a Vado, but there, Port Royal is definitely up in that mix. Definitely when I first showed up there, very intimidating.
Sure.
That's what Gordy said too.
It is sketchy when you go there for the first time.
Oh yeah. Something about the way the guardrail stacked up in turn one. Like when you're going down the front straightaway, but you're going down the front straightaway for a while, and you got some time to think about this, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this like that.
It's the truth. God damn. Yeah.
You can't check, like qualifying, you go in there wide open. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that too. And then we talked about it on here, is that the sun sets out over 3 and 4. So when you're going into 3 during qualifying and it's up on the fence, like you hardly can't see anyways as you're getting into the corner, and you're just like expected to run and you're practically wide open and, a foot from the guardrail. And it's like, oh yeah, no, just haul down this big ass straightaway and then just hold it wide open as you go left. And you can't see where the cushion is anymore, but good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think when too, like it's weird when you walk up to that track, it doesn't look that wide. Like you're kind of like, man, this thing's kind of narrow for how big it is. But for some reason, it's like magic. When you get to race on that thing, it feels like it's 6 cars wide. You know what I mean? It just feels like there's always somewhere to go. And it's just one of those tracks where you feel like you can make a difference behind the wheel, because you can get big runs if you do it right. You got somewhere to go. You got, like, if you do get a run along that straightaway, you can make something happen with it. You're not broke up by the corner right away. And yeah, it's just fun. It's a good time. Yeah, in general, I think as racers, I think you're the same way I am, Gordy, where we just, like, racetracks in and of themselves are just so fascinating because there are so many factors, like you're saying with the sun. And each place just has its own, like, life to it, like that, like you go to, like Fairbury, for instance, like when it comes, like, qualifying, almost every time that sun's right in your eyes, turn one is just a blank black shadow. You have no idea what's fixing to happen. Yeah. Part of what makes it,
Yeah. And you better be on the fuel if you're going to run the top of Fairbury in qualifying, because if not, you're either going to get chewed up or you're like 6/10 off. So, like, there is no in between, and it's wild. It is very wild.
And another thing we always want to touch on a little bit, your influence. Talk about some of the race car drivers that you watched, like in late model. Who was the guy that you kind of watched and you were like the admiration for? I'd be curious to know, kind of like, who'd you look up to and who'd you follow and you wanted to drive a lot like.
Well, growing up in the desert Southwest, we really we weren't like super clued into what was going on in the country late model racing wise. I think, like, every now and then you might catch like a Have a Tampa highlight or something like that on, I don't even know what channel, but so you knew it was out there, but I was too young probably to know enough of the names and everything that was going on. But somewhere when I was young, a friend of my mom's lived in Batesville or something like that and got me a signed Billy Moyer hero card. And this was in the GV days, the Bazooka base tube, orange and blue. This thing, that car was awesome.
That's one of Gordy's favorite cars, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then this thing was signed, and my mom still has it. I actually looked at it a couple of years ago, went there for Vado, and I was looking at this thing, and it's got Ronnie Stuckey as the crew chief on there. And you're like, this is wild. Like, and I realized, the people that we'd get to talk to and be around. And, so for sure, like, that was probably one of my youngest memories of of a late model racer that you're like, man, that dude's awesome, and just, how talented and how multifaceted Billy is. I think when I got a little bit older and the racing was starting to get on to, I think the first time I remember the racing actually being on TV to where you could kind of pay attention to like who was in there a little bit more. It was when they first started putting Lucas races on. I don't remember if it was Speed Channel or what. Every now and then they'd start putting them on there, and every time there was the Lucas race that was televised, Earl, it seemed like, was winning every one of them.
Yep.
They'd go to Wheatland or they'd go to your guys' track, or they'd go to Tri-City, and it seemed like Earl was winning every time. And you're like, man, this Earl's badass.
Yeah.
So for sure, like, Earl was the man. Jimmy was the man back then. Jimmy's still incredible. I think he just needs like a situation that fits him a little bit better, setup wise and all that stuff. But yeah, I think guys like that, the guys that could just go anywhere and make stuff happen, Earl, Jimmy, Billy, Berkey. I look up to Berkey a lot.
We were going back and forth with him last week a little bit.
Yeah, there's nothing better than
bantering with him last week
with
a little
Brian
bit.
Burkhofer. It's the best one.
Dude, the other thing is too, and you were talking about how you remember Stuckey working on the GVS. People forget at one time that Joel had Stuckey as a crew chief, Jimmy Fry, and Randall Edwards.
Yep,
was just starting. I mean, think about that.
I'm pretty sure when we were down at Stuckey's that one year, we were like looking at all the old pictures and stuff that he had, and some of the shit that you see in just these pictures, it's like guys that are just been in the sport forever, and you're like, my God, like that was, in the
massive
in the early '90s, and some of the things they were doing back then. It's pretty remarkable how the long of tenures all these guys have had inside this sport, and the success and the things that they've accomplished, and yet they just keep giving back to it. They just don't want to stop. They can't help it now.
Well, people need to understand, like Russell Owens is a perfect example. Russell Owens was one of Scott's first crew guys.
Yeah.
And Russell Owens is still out there, and you'll never ever hear Russell Owens say anything bad about Scott, ever. Right. And Russell, and I look back and I see Russell. He's got the mullet, out there, and you get to see Scott walking around with the long hair and no T-shirt on, working on his stuff. I mean, those are it's classic.
Yeah.
What we have, and it's just, I don't know. I'm just proud that we were able, me and Gordy, get to share these sort of things with the people out there. And I'm sure there's some people, when they hear Russell Owens over the weekend, are going to be going, Jesus, man, I just saw him last weekend,
Right.
down a Volunteer, and,
right.
and I think that's what we're lucky at. And we get to share that with you. And I'm glad having a hero card of Billy Moyer, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, a great way to you have no idea what's going on, and now you've raced against him God knows how many times.
Absolutely. And knowing that, hey, we got a big TV race tomorrow, and we're going to get into this because we know that you're a late model guy, and we got to talk about the High Limit Series is at Vado tomorrow night for a TV race, and I'm sure we're all going to be watching. Garrett, who's your pick?
Garrett's going to be tuned in, chomping at the bit over there. He's going to be just going, man, if I could have just got a sprint car ride for this damn thing.
Who's your pick for Vado, for the sprint car guys?
I'll be honest, I haven't been super locked into the sprint car world this year. I think we've been so focused on trying to ride our
6 different winners in 6 races.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Is Rico running Highlands?
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to go. I love when Rico wins. Rico's awesome.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, I would say him or Reitzel would be my pick for tomorrow night. I think those two guys are guys that can, after watching all the races that you guys ran at Vado and how aggressive you ran the top around those places, like that kind of jumps out to me that Rico or Reitzel, those two guys can get up there, and J-Mac too. Mind you, I don't know. I keep forgetting that J-Mac's back in the States until he won the other night.
Yeah.
But those 3 guys, man, that racetrack seems like it would fit them, because like if you got to hustle the top the way you guys had to there, like those are the guys that can get it done.
Yeah. I'm hoping. I think it was last year, the high limit race there. It was like a little wet and it never really like fully widened out. to get out there to the wall like it can. So I'm hoping it widens out good. Because when it gets all the way out there, it feels like, you're carrying the speed of like a good size 3/8, but you're like backing into the corner like you're at Fairbury or something. It's a wild feeling, especially getting into 3 for some reason. Just the shape and the banking, like you end up just like hucking this thing in there, but you're going way faster than you realize. Like, I don't know. It's just you're really good with it. I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, me too.
The reason I said Pittsburgh was going to be one of your favorite places is I was just thinking of big racetracks. This goes back to when we were at Arizona. Was when we kept racing that week. Garrett kept talking about how couldn't get this thing to steer in on the gas, right? So we went to they had a practice night on whatever it was, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, and we changed some stuff, and Garrett had not been able to run in there wide open yet all week. Like, he had to go in and lift. We were too tight in qualifying. So I'm like, okay, he's going to go out there and just kind of get a feel for it, probably lift the first lap, see if it turns. Fuck no. Just wide open. Just, as fast as he could go, entering 4 in the fluff, trying to turn, whatever. We came back in and changed things like we would run like 2 or 3 laps at a time. He'd come off and he'd be like, nope, didn't work. We'd try something else. And he'd just wide open run off in here as fast as he could and try to turn it. I'm like, dude, Garrett is not scared of anything right now. Like, not even a little bit. And so the big tracks, like when you got to run the top and all that stuff, like I'm like, that is right up his alley, because just gassing on it is not, you don't have to worry about that at all. Like, you're never going to have to worry about Garrett gassing on it early on. I can promise you that.
Yeah, I've grown to love it. Believe it or not, it's
I learned to love it.
I remember the first time going to Eldora, and as tough as we all think we are, that shit's intimidating. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
That isn't intimidated by it, but I think most of us probably are. It's taken a lot of mental, like very like purposeful mental effort to get to the point where like them half miles, like I feel comfortable at now. And sometimes I swear now, I thought I almost overcorrected, and like I'm like half miles, and now I kind of suck at the little track, so I gotta like around there. I don't know.
Yeah, you focused too much energy towards it. Now you dialed back some of the other focus you had. Yeah,
I remember like 2020 and I could go to Fairbury and rock and roll, and then we'd get to Port or something like that. I'd just feel like fish out of water, and now it's like complete opposite.
So how many races are we going to see? Kind of like your schedule. You're looking at 80, 85 race. What's kind of where you're looking at in your schedule? I mean, naturally we got weather and stuff that could pin some, but what's kind of your race schedule look like for the fans at home? Total races.
I guess I haven't put pen and paper to it like on an exact number, but it seems like the last couple of years we've been ending up around the 90 race range, which is wild to think of. I remember, I think it was the first year that I ever made it to like 50 features in a year. And I was driving for that Dave Dietz in New Mexico, but we were racing late models and those trucks still some. And I remember getting to 50 races in a year being like, that's amazing. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. And then, so getting up over 90 is, I think last year, like 94, 95, somewhere in there. And then you add up practice nights, it's like 110 or 13 nights on track. Which is, for me, which I feel like I'm just, like you're kind of just like your average guy. Like, that's crucial in getting laps and getting comfortable at speed and make good decisions, I think, big shout out to Ken, obviously, for being willing to race like that, because I feel like that's what it took for me to get to a level where we can be competitive night in, night out, is just getting them laps.
Yeah. It all comes down to seat time at the end of the day, especially when you're high leverage racing the way you are. It's like you have to go and race all the big races when you're not running a national points race, just to keep figuring out where you're at, where you measure up with everybody else. And that's like I said, getting to know Ken, like he is just an awesome dude and just all about it, and obviously is willing to give you anything you need to be successful. And it's cool seeing you guys have success, the way you have over the last few years.
I know one thing, Garrett, that's a lot of Apple tunes going up and down the highway. So you got to tell Gordy and I, what are you listening to? I know you're listening a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I probably got maybe some of the more diverse music taste in the of the people that I know of. I definitely trend towards the harder, probably metal kind of stuff, and
all right,
like a little screaming every now and then.
All right, what exactly? What's some of the bands you're listening to? A little Chevelle? What we got?
No, it's gonna be way harder than that.
Corn. We're doing Corn.
Yeah.
Are we doing Corn?
Bring Me the Horizon's a real good one, especially the old stuff's real get with it. If you want to get way out there, Lorna Shore, I don't know if Lorna Shore is kind of like in the black metal kind of world. It's pretty heavy, but not.
Did you see this coming from him? Did you see?
Listen, I've heard it. When we were in Arizona, we all hung out for so long that we all kind of had to figure out what we all liked and what we didn't. Yeah. And even back then, it was always a little bit different. But it's like, hey, everybody's got their own thing.
That's why I think it's important for people to know, kind of like what some of these guys' music tastes are.
Yeah,
because you're in the holler so much and you're going down the road. People want to know, kind of what kind of you're listening to,
Yeah.
And I think it's great, I mean, Gordy, he's like the Morgan Wallen guy, I mean, he's
mine's all. I promise you, I have the most
but I'm just
diverse.
Saying, if you got your go-to,
because man, I will turn on some heavy metal, and if I'm just like, man, I need to get some shit out for like 10 minutes. You crank that baby up, and next thing you know, you can feel a little bit better after 10 minutes of just fucking beating your head and all that. But it's not much. I'm way more country and rap based than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like good country stuff. Morgan Wallen's really good. I really liked Zach Bryan a lot here lately. But like alt rock, like Death Cab for Cutie, or more hipstery type stuff. I'll listen to real hipstery stuff. I guess rap is probably like the area that I know the least. I like if it's popular, I'll jam to it. I don't too deep into it, but usually pretty easily entertained on the music. I don't get, I can get with most stuff.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It's so funny that we keep talking about this. Ricky Arnold actually the other day sent me like a Snapchat memory from the year we were down in Arizona, and I just I saw him we were like kids back then, like we were just roughing it, trying to get through it, and it was like it cracked me up because it's I think about it all the time just because it's like, man, like that was a great time. It was so much fun, and we were just like doing everything we could to race, but. It is one of my all-time, like honestly, like one of my favorite racing memories of not me racing, but just being there. Like it was top. It was very top notch, and we had to call Stucky every day and check in. It's so funny because he'd be texting us like different things. Like he'd be checking on what Garrett and Earl were wanting, but then he'd go, if they tell you no, don't listen to them, just do this. Or, it was so funny. It was a great time.
And literally eating bologna sandwiches, I remember.
That's it. That's all we ate. We ate bologna sandwiches damn near every day at the Airbnb. That was it. And drank a lot of beer.
Yep. Yeah, that was good.
Well, Garrett, I think before we sign off here, I think it's very important for you to thank a lot of the people that have got you where you are. And, We can't thank you enough for coming on the show, really, and wish you the best. But it's your time. Thank some people. It sounds like, Ken, of course, is one of the major guys that's making a lot of things happen for you. So good for him, and he found a good one.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, obviously, Ken and Beth Roberts, you fortunate to find a car owner dynamic where you just feel like family, and nothing lasts forever, but you feel like you at least are the right fit at the right time and everything. So big thanks to Ken and Beth and for everything they've done for us all these years, and we're still planning to dig hard. Like we don't have anything different anytime soon. We're gonna keep on digging as long as it all makes sense. And of course, our sponsors, the partners that make it all happen. It just like you guys know, it takes everything to go up and down the road, be competitive. Sunoco Race Fuels, Bill Stein Shocks, Mesilla Valley Transportation, Brack Properties, a new sponsor with us this year that we're really excited about. Really good people. Hogan Farms, I think I've forgot them a couple times. VG Performance, Vinny Giuliani, a huge part of our program. Let's see, Bill's Sports Shop. Shout out to Bill Norton. He's like one of those. He's one of the kind of sponsors that you just always wish you had, to somebody that's always got your back no matter what the situation is. Big shout out to Bill. Low Voltage Solution. Gary and the guys at LVS just do a ton for racing. It's really cool. Let's see, Romer Machine and Welding, Algar Performance. They come on with us this year and helped out a lot. Swanee's Bar and Grill here in Kelowna, actually. Pretty cool to have them on board. Mitchell Ranch in Texas. Again, really sweet people that are always got our backs. Yeah, we got a lot of great people. Donago Power Sports is a cool company that's doing a lot with racing right now. Donago, and then ECS Power Sports. Let's see. Some of our good products, people like Swift Springs and Fast Shafts. Titan Race Products. I miss Chandler and them guys sometimes, but Titan, they do a lot for us, building some really cool parts. And let's see. Yeah, we're
putting you on the spot. We're trying to prep you for the next win. That's what we're
yeah.
I know. I need this. I haven't been up front enough to. Yeah, they're just super fortunate, man. Like when you're in a position where you got to actually think about all the people that are behind it, it means
it's a good thing.
Yeah, it means the world. We really are fortunate. We've got just a lot of people that are helping build the momentum, I feel like. And I know we haven't delivered the way we want the last little bit, but I think we know some of the areas to work in, and we're digging hard. So, of course, Sims Family Racing.
Now they're popping in.
Yeah. It's like a bunch of family and friends of the family, and they got like a big old group text. They're just always like group texting each other how the racing's going and stuff like that. And of course, our guys that put the work in, Zach and Chasen, and my brother Dylan came with us for the last month or two. Put a lot of work in. My wife Danny, she does more than anybody can realize to not only help you get up and down the road, but to keep me sane and mentally healthy. A lot of us racers can be mental cases sometimes, and she's like one of the strongest things that I got to always get me pointed in the right direction. So massive thanks to my wife. She does more than anybody could ever realize. And it's cool to have a supportive family, mom and dad, back in New Mexico, and my siblings. Just everybody is yeah, it's, just feel fortunate. Not a lot of things to complain about really in life when you got like a family that backs you and sponsors and crew guys that are behind you. It's just pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you can. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I kind of went through the whole repertoire of what we got going on, and I'll let Gordy kind of like finish it out here.
Yeah.
And,
well, of course, obviously.
Thank you, Garrett. Yeah. Appreciate it.
I want you to go fast this year, but I don't want you to go fast when I'm there. I want you to be just a little bit slower than me. So just keep that in mind,
Yes, sir.
No, we appreciate you, man, coming on here. And, obviously, best of luck to you, on this year. Obviously, we'll be racing against each other quite a bit, here for the next probably month and a half or so. So it'll be fun just to kind of see you and catch up a little bit more. But, appreciate you coming on and spending time with us. And we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remember another one.
Real quick, we didn't get to talk about one thing.
Wait, hold on.
About the dome car.
Oh, hold on, though. Yeah, well,
go ahead.
Fuck.
We forgot about the dome car.
He was thinking it. He almost forgot.
Go ahead.
We don't want to forget.
Yeah, I almost forgot. I got Capital Signs and Graphics. Lee and them guys at Capital Signs that do our decals. Do an excellent job. It's super good to work with, and they always keep our cars looking awesome. So I definitely got to remember them guys.
Yeah, don't forget Lee, man. That would be no bueno. Lee is good shit, so I'm glad you didn't forget him.
But we didn't talk about the one thing we couldn't get off here without talking about the dome car.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the coolest cars on the property.
It was great for a few laps.
While it lasted.
It made it through hot laps. We'll say that.
I tell you what, for one, the ingenuity and all this, the thought process, and I can't imagine the extra hours that went into some of the shit you built for that deal. But like the finished product was easily one of the coolest things. I'm pretty sure. I think I shared it on Facebook, and I was like, "This is like the most badass thing I think I've seen in racing in the last few years," because like it really was. But I do also remember, I'm like the first stall when you go off the racetrack, and this thing comes by and it's just panels and things hanging all over it. I was like, well, it was really cool for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's that weekend there had to have been. That's probably like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows you can have within like 30 seconds. It was like, oh yeah, this is the coolest thing I've ever done, and I ruined it.
It's done, and now it's over with.
We had to talk about it. It was cool,
man. It
was a beautiful car, man.
Yeah, and the video work and all this, everything that went into like the social media prep of releasing it and all that was like very, very top notch. So you did get, don't get me wrong, even though it was bad publicity after you destroyed it, everybody was still on there like making jokes and just firing it up. So, at least they're like they always say, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and you got plenty in that 3-day span, at the Dome that weekend.
So would you do anything different for this year's Dome? Are you going to do anything different?
Yeah.
What are we going to do different for this year's Dome race?
He's bringing the stock standard white and blue 58.
Yeah, I think you're probably on the path. Dylan and I put some work in it, and it was so not what I hoped it would be. And so yeah, if we get to go, I'll probably just duct tape a number on this thing or something. I don't know. I'll take the exact.
Shit.
Yeah, it's tough because as a racer, you look on your bad performances and they hurt more than anything. And when it boiled down to it, I just didn't bring the right package. Like I had some ideas that I thought would kind of like fit the unique scenario of the Dome, and I was dead wrong. Like the whole, nothing. I don't think it was the body of that car. I think it was anything other than the setup that I put under this thing. Like we just weren't good, So, so there's always regret when it comes to that on your bad nights. But I definitely don't regret doing the work and making such a cool car, because more than anything, just like what it made people feel. Like that weekend, the amount of people that came up and was like, man, my dad had a car look just like that. And they'd show you the picture of their car. You could just tell it, like, and that's not necessarily what I set out to do, but it meant a lot to a lot of people, and that was the coolest thing of all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, it really was. So it's something people will never forget. That's for sure. It'll be a lasting memory for a lot of people. Good, bad, indifferent. So, all right, man. Well,
To Cody for stepping on a limb and letting us do it too. You know, I mean, like he like understood that what we were trying to do is cool.
Yeah. Well, and he's a showman, so he's all about that stuff. That's for sure. So, all right, man. Well, we appreciate you.
We're going to jump right into last week, what we saw a little bit on the racetrack. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on. We had some different things. But we'll start with the sprint cars because it was 3 nights with High Limit at Central Arizona. And the biggest take for me, Gord, after the weekend with High Limit is 6 races, 6 winners.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about how deep their roster is pretty repeatedly, I feel like, over the last few weeks, and they just keep proving it, how strong of a group they have. But, also for them to kind of come out the gate as High Limit is doing and ripping off all these different winners and these guys and putting on great races too. It's really cool to see because you look at that points battle. I mean, Tanner Thorson comes out of there leading it, and obviously you could kind of feel the confidence he had going into this year. Obviously, having Stevie go with him out there out west clearly helped him a ton. I'm sure that having somebody like that to really kind of be in your ear the whole time and bolstering that confidence a little bit more is big. But he just continuously is putting good runs together. So it was good to see Rico get back on the horse, and kind of wipe off what really wasn't, I guess, a great opening weekend for him. I think in his mindset. But seeing that, it's like, man, they are. Every night you watch those races, like it's just a crapshoot of who's going to win it. I mean, you see Dason get a good run and some stuff. So that's the thing I look at. The biggest takeaway is just how many different guys can win races inside that series at any point. Like Sonny hasn't won one yet. We know he's going to get some.
And yet he's sitting, like I was just going to say that, he's quietly, but he's sitting 5th in the points. He's like right. He just slithers his way. Just around.
I tried to pick him up a little bit Friday. I texted him. I said, "Can you please try to not suck tonight?" So I was trying to give him a little swift kick in the ass to get him going. But yeah, so I mean, like he's gonna win some.
Yep.
So I think you look at that, just man, it's like very impressive how many different guys are winning these races right now, but also how many guys are really strong that haven't won anything yet. And I mean, hell, you could probably see 12, 15 different winners inside that series easily, outside of when other guys drop in.
I thought it was crazy is that Tanner finished 8th, I think, the last night, and he was really disappointed. And he said, we just missed it tonight a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, going a year ago at this time, if you would have told him he'd have finished 8th, he probably would have took it. And now that the kid's rolling and the podium finishes, it's kind of like what you talked a little bit about on the show tonight. It's like when you get going and you're on these runs, and it's like nothing sometimes can go wrong a little bit. And we're seeing that a little bit. And it's obvious that Tanner's hard work in the off season. Everybody talks about how hard and being a little different and not having the same with the coilovers and stuff that we're seeing. He's pretty happy with his package right now.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it takes, man. It takes time on the road and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. And I mean, as he talked about, they've got their motor programs better, all these things like that. All those types of differences don't just happen overnight, right? Like, yeah, you can come into the sport and spend all the money you want, but it still takes the time and the seat time and learning your race car. And now he's kind of got that full package, and we're seeing what he's able to do with it. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, you could see how happy he was, when he won the other night, and that, as we've talked about, is great for the sport. And he is throwing his hat into the ring that he's going to be a mainstay for a championship title. Honestly, I think, it's going to be how he handles when he kind of rides off this high. I think that's going to determine what happens. But listen, Tanner has ran for points and done these things, so he understands what has to be done. It's just a matter of them now installing that, for a full season, and I'm excited to see it. Like I said, all of the
you've talked about how talented he is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, nobody has to explain it to you how talented Tanner Thorson is. He's made that very known by winning a Chili Bowl, winning God knows how many USAC races and Power I races and all those things. It is no question of his ability. Just when you're racing at the very top of the sport, things are a lot harder, and it's very hard to put a full year together without having DNFs and stupid mistakes and all those things that you learn over time. And that's what I feel like he's putting together now is he's gotten enough time in the wing cars and he's raced at the high levels now with them and has the the total package of all the things that you need to be very successful and he's putting them to good use. That's for sure.
We talk about one bearded guy, and let's talk about the other one. And let's talk about J-Mac.
Yeah.
Because man, is it great not having him in the States early now this year. I mean, when James McFadden is racing, man, it's great for
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
It doesn't get any better.
Yeah, and he gets out and he's chugging a beer out of his shoe and all this stuff. Like, yeah, we don't have that.
I thought about that because I said, that's got to be your guy.
Dude, yeah, I mean, dude, he's, listen, I've said it before, I've got to meet J-Mac and when we were staying at Sheldon's that year, and just one of the best dudes you could meet. He's just happy and laughing.
Tripping.
Oh yeah. And it's cool to see him win anytime, and you wish he was just over here all the time still, but I can completely understand why he's not. It's good for the sport when guys like that are coming across here and doing a little puddle jumping and then winning some races. So it's always exciting seeing J-Mac get up front and battle, and that's what I mean. Like talking about tomorrow night at Votto's, he's one of those guys that can absolutely wheel at any point, any type of racetrack, and watching him get a W there the other night was cool.
And then we're going to switch gears and we'll go talk about the World of Outlaws. They had a couple of races in Oklahoma last week, and Creek County, dude, when they went out the even hot lap, first of all, kudos to Matt Ward, Emmett, for the work that they did to put the show on. Going from a micro track to an ASCS track, now bringing in the World of Outlaws, and it was not, the weekend blew me away. More talking about how great the crowd was and everything else, but I think the biggest takeaway that I took away from the World of Outlaws was David Gravel sweeping the weekend on quarter miles.
Yeah, and I think especially being that. Not that it's not as obviously every racetrack he goes to, they're very good at. But you wouldn't nab him as the guy that was going to go there and get both of those. And I think that probably comes from a little frustration over the last few weeks of not getting the finishes they want and having some kind of struggles we're not used to seeing. But then him just kind of re-putting his stamp back on the Outlaws, going, well, hey, it's still me you're chasing.
Yeah, he stepped on their throat a little bit over the weekend.
Yeah.
And he got his point lead. It's like over 60 points again.
Yeah.
And if David is going, when he goes to places that he's already comfortable at and he does it, we know what to expect there, yet alone when he does this, it's not a good message for some of the other guys in the pit area.
No, it's
him and Cody Jacobs don't take prisoners.
No. Well, it's just the confidence thing too in them. They know that they have everything they need to be successful. Obviously, David is a unbelievable talent, and when they are right, they are at the very top of the sport across both around anybody. Obviously. So
it starts at the top, Gord, with Todd Query.
Yep.
And Todd runs a first class program all the way from start to finish, and it shows. It's one of the best sprint car teams that we're probably ever going to see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. It's pretty wild to see what they've accomplished. Even before they were winning championships, and now you can tell it's just they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
And you get a guy like Buddy Kofort again. Has another tough weekend, and it's only a matter of time before he's gonna get in that mindset, kind of like what Sheldon got into when they get behind in the points a little bit, where they just say, "Hell with it, we're just going to win races."
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, Buddy Kofort is going to win a lot of races. I mean, we both know that. And then before we get we kind of talked about the high limit side and the World of Outlaw side. High limit, of course, goes into Vado this week, and then they head back. They got a race at Texas Route 66, and then they go to Kansas, and then the Outlaws. Naturally, they're both in Kansas on Saturday night, which got to be a little bit of a scheduling nightmare. But I'm sure both places will probably be sold out.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, not really. I don't think they planned that one out as great as they would have liked.
81 in Dodge City. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but whatever. We'll move on from that. And I thought everything that we saw over the weekend with that, with the sprint car side, naturally you just look at high limit and you go 6 different winners in 6 nights. It's just crazy. And then of course, and then we got to talk about Magnolia. We had a little bit. Bobby gets a win. He did his job. Huddy, man, how impressive is Hudson can go from the 6 and the 71 and just not miss a beat and Rumley stuff. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's driving for 2 guys with Jason Durham, and then he goes into that. I mean, JD even will tell you how good Jason Durham is with a lot of the success that they had. So I'll let you talk a little bit about over the weekend what we saw in Late Model World.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're on Friday with Bobby. That's just what we've come accustomed to known with Bobby, right? Like, if the top of the racetrack is there. Bobby's going to be there.
From the B.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's like the difference that Bobby has compared to the other guys, I would say, and we've talked about it so many times, is he just knows how to make so much speed up there. It is insane because he makes it look damn near effortless, and it is not as easy as he makes it look. And, you saw even on Saturday night there when him and JD are kind of up there wailing on it, and the difference it took, JD obviously was way tighter on Saturday night than I think he would have liked to have been to try to win that feature. But it's just he's just got a different gap there compared to most guys, and that's what he does. And then you look at Hudson, as you said, it very much helps when you go to work in 2 race cars that are prepared as well as they are. Obviously one being with Jason Durham, which is Huddy stuff, the other being Rumley. But, we've seen what Hudson can do over the last God knows how many years. I mean, one of the youngest kids to ever make the World 100. And so he has just that pure talent out there. And, he goes in, they got to fix the bumper. He goes back to like 15th or 16th or wherever it was and wheels his way back through there. But it's just impressive to see he's doing it in so many different ways. That's, I think, what's more remarkable than anything is one night he's on the very bottom of the racetrack. The next he's burning the curb down. He's out in the middle of the racetrack. Like he's really coming into his own as a fully formed race car driver. And it does help when you have a guy like Jason Durham who has won so much with Jonathan Davenport and so much across the sport in general, that it instills a lot of confidence in him. And I think the same thing with Rumley being there is you're not worried about your race car not being prepared and also not having guys that are making the correct changes. And so he's just kind of in that zone where he just has the confidence to go out and just put it on these guys. And he continues to do it, and he's winning races left and right. And, he's just instilling his name that he's a top 5 name all year. And that every time the 71 or when he's in the 6 rolls in, like, you're going to have to worry about them because there's no shying away from them.
And that we go into this weekend, and you think about it. You know, the Lucas Series is back in action this weekend. They go to Atomic on Friday, and then Brownstown on Saturday. You almost got to think, man, Huddy's got to be a favorite. Him and Devin are going to be really good.
I think Devin's always really good there.
Yep.
I think Sheppy's really good there, and I know there's a lot of. I know Hoffman's going this weekend. I'm sure JD will be there. It's going to be full tilt on Friday and Saturday because you have a lot of guys in both series who've had success at these two racetracks. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of who comes out on top of this deal. But it'd be hard pressed to not say that Huddy is one of the three favorites going into this weekend. And mind you, we haven't even installed at RTJ, and all that because we haven't seen that yet. But it's coming.
And they were making progress, and they've been getting. Yeah. You could see it the last few times they've been out. It's starting to build. They're getting there.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm excited to see what Overton has done. Won again over the weekend.
Yep.
So and then you look at the Hunt the Front series they got going. The other thing is when we watched Magnolia the other night, and I had to talk about this. There was a time when Turbo, Winger, and JD were all right there. I think we, as fans, if you were at home watching it, you were kind of like looking excited. Were you thinking what was going to come, but nothing ever materialized?
No, it didn't.
And I'm sure all three of them were happy to see it.
Yeah, I'm guaranteed they were. Because there could have been a lot of fireworks right there. But, sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. Winger was right there and he made a mistake and then, he loses a bunch of ground. But, yeah, it's one of those deals where I think everybody was kind of on the edge of their seat going, we might get to see some real shit pop off here in a minute. So, and obviously that's what is being, driven into our sport right now is people are noticing these things and they're going, oh, okay, well, this guy and this guy's got some history and they're on the front row together, or all of that is happening right now. And it's cool to see how much these guys are really, kind of at each other at the end of the day. And you got a lot of guys who are making a ton of speed right now. That's what's pretty crazy. And it's good because it just shows how strong our sport is as a whole. And you got a lot of guys who didn't have good speed weeks and stuff that I expect to kind of bounce back here soon and kind of get moving along. And that's just going to make it even better. I hope a few of them start kind of dying off before we get to doing some of the Lucas stuff and some of the Outlaw stuff. But, it is really neat to just kind of roll the dice on who the hell's going to win tonight. That's kind of what we have.
The big thing is, too, you're sitting at home. All this is going on. You're kind of like, what's going through are you like ready to go?
Oh, yeah, I'm itching. I'm ready to get there. I don't mind sitting at home being a race fan when I'm watching them guys down in January in Florida and all that. But now it's like, okay, now we're ready to go. And I'm ready to go get back in the seat at Makokata and get a practice night in and kind of evaluate what we've got and just go from there. But there's nothing like getting in the race car. So I'm definitely ready to go. I can tell it's more racing season now because the guys that I talk to a lot over the winter obviously are all racing, so I don't hear from them as much on the weekends. It's more of the bullshit sessions during the week. But you can tell everybody's kind of got race mode kicked in, and so it's going to be a great year of racing. I can tell you that much, and I'm itching to get out there.
Well, I'm going to sign off now. I'll let Gordy shut it down. Thanks, everybody, for joining the Dirt Parlor, listening to Garrett Alberson tonight. And Gordy and I kind of recapping last weekend, and we'll be talking about a lot of stuff, and we'll probably have a guest on next weekend, too. Guess got to figure out who we want.
No doubt.
But can't thank all of our guests that have come on. And I wanted to touch on something real quick that we had Brad Sweet on the week before. And if you missed it, you need to go back and check that one out. because that was one of the epic nights for the Dirt Parlor. And I know for a fact I got some other messages from some other people that watched it. And, even some officials on High Limit and stuff were even talking about the fact of how much they really enjoyed it. And really, you could tell Brad was very comfortable on the show. And that's what we want everybody to be comfortable on the show and be able to feel like this is a platform for all the racers and all the sponsors and everyone. And I can't thank everybody enough for really supporting us and letting Gordy do. And I get to do what we love doing, and that's talking racing.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And it's been really cool to hear a lot of insight from a lot of different people and racers and people in the sport. So look forward to continuing to do it. So thank you guys for always tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you to all of our great partners, and make sure you like and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube and all the other social platforms.